Welcome to another episode of Life Distilled. I'm Cobey Williamson, and let me tell you, you're in for a real treat with this episode here today, because not only am I here with my co-founder and partner, Cary, but we're coming to you from the very top of the world of craft spirits, Denver, Colorado, and our guest today is the godfather of the craft distilling movement here in the United States, president and founder of the American Distilling Institute, Bill Owens, and the heir apparent, his son, Erik.
Thank you.
Bill, thanks for taking the time, Erik.
Sure.
Appreciate
I want
it.
them like,
Applause.
be the crowd. Applause!
Absolutely. So my understanding is that what really made ADI what it is started with these forums that you created online, which is where you really kind of got the momentum at the very dawn of the craft distilling movement here in the United States. But now we're sitting here in what is truly the mecca of craft distilling in Colorado at the 16th ADI convention, and you got a couple thousand attendees.
Over 1,800.
Paid.
1,800.
Come through the door.
Well, that was as of this morning, so
There's distilleries all around the country.
1,800.
and, and around the world, too.
1,800 confirmed registrations before we started today.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It grows 30% a year, pretty religiously.
A lot has changed. Can you tell us how you got started in all this, Bill?
Oh, my God. That's I ran away from home, put my clothes in a cardboard box, and decided I want to see America. So I'd been the publisher of American Brewer magazine, and one of my magazines I'd made a list of small distilleries. So I drove across America visiting breweries, because I used to have a brewery, and visited a couple of craft distilleries. And then when I got back, I'm sitting in a coffee shop with a typical long hair who doesn't have a job, and he's reading a manual on how to flip property. So I tell him, you need to look in a mirror. You are not a property appraiser. I said, watch this, I'm going to go start a new business. So I just get in my car, drive to the county seat, do the DBA, American Distilling Institute. In those days, I think you had to write in to get your EIN. There wasn't the internet. I got my EIN number, and then you go to the bank and you make a deposit. So now you make a deposit and get a checking account. So now you have a business and no money. But at least you have $100 in the bank. So you say, what can I do to make money? I'll have a show. So I went to St. George Distillery and talked to Jorg and said, can I bring a bunch of people in on a Saturday and have a meeting here of craft distillers? So I think I had a list of about 60 craft distillers I knew. And you have to remember, in those days, there was no internet. So you wrote them a letter and say, we're having a meeting on such and such a day, come by. And so as the day as it got closer and closer, I probably only had 30 to 40 responses. And I asked a couple of vendors also, Forsyths from Scotland and Vendome and some others. I said to myself, I better rent chairs. So I rented, I think it was 75 chairs. And so when the meeting started, every chair was full. And Dan Farber was in the back grilling me, and a few people in the back so I could count. And I knew there was 86 people at the first meeting.
And what year was that?
I don't know.
2003.
Okay.
2003, thank you.
2003.
So the next year we had another meeting in St. George. It began to grow and get some inertia. But in those days, the ADI was just my assistant would come in one day a week, and we'd do a little bit of ADI and do my photography business and do other things. It was not a real viable business making any money, but I soon realized that I've been in publishing all my life and I should do a magazine. And so I did the first distiller magazine and tried to be quarterly, but you can't be because you don't have the time and energy and the money to be quarterly. So the first couple of years there's maybe 2 issues, and then you begin to get a little more people, then you do 3 issues, and then you do 4 issues of the magazine, and each time the conference is moved around the country to different locations, and it begins to build as more and more people. You develop I've always loved mailing lists, so I developed a mailing list of everybody so I could mail everybody. And I still fight about this with staff. Staff wants to email everybody. I say, people don't read emails. I want that postcard on their desk. So we do both now. But it's really hard to motivate people, even in their best interest, to come to a conference like this and take a look at these presentations on whiskey and gin, and oh my God, here's David Smith talking on gin. I want to take that class. So now it's over the years it's just grown to 60 breakout sessions, 10 hands-on classes, bus tours, and everything, and we're just plowing ahead. That's all.
I was looking back on some of the numbers, and 10 years ago there was about 200 distilleries, and now we're over 1,550 distilleries. So in the last 10 years, it's like 800% growth. So 10 years ago, ADI was a very small thing as well.
Yeah, what were the numbers this morning? It was 2,950 actual
No, that's
DSPs.
DSPs.
Yeah.
So, I've seen other number of people
Right.
put numbers
it's
of
misleading.
1,800 distilleries out there. I believe a lot of those are rectifiers or brands that aren't really true active distilleries. I manage the database myself, and I'm constantly updating it. And so around 1,550 is the number that we have, and
1,500,
Michael
okay.
Kinslick double checks that numbers. He's actually more conservative than me, and his numbers are even a little lower. So.
Got it.
And at the beginning of this, kind of in the intro, I said that you were kind of the godfather of the craft distilling movement in the United States. And what I really mean by that is the bulk of those 1,500 distillers came to ADI to vet their idea, to take those first steps.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how that process has worked and your experience being kind of the person people turn to first to say, hey, I want to start a distillery, Bill, what do I do?
It's all on the internet. You go to distilling.com and anything you want to know, it's there, or better yet, you go to the ADI forum. 10,000 people a month are on the forum. It's huge. So I don't have to pay attention to the forum because they're helping each other.
Right.
And so if there's anybody bad-mouthing them, we hear from them and we take them off, right? That happens once every 6 months when somebody puts disinformation. But and then we publish lots of books. And my latest book is on how to build a nano. And I'm really proud of this book because it took well over a year to do, but I have the 50 things you need to buy to open a distillery. And not only do I list them, I list the website and the approximate price. So if you add them all up, all 50 things, it's about $42,000 to open a nano. But I quickly say you need another $100,000 to take the burn. And the burn is you can't get open. You can't get the building, you can't get the lease signed, the TGB, label approval, all this stuff, and you're just going to burn money for 2 years minimum. And so I try to make people really aware. At this meeting, also, again, I tried to convince staff to let me have a guy came in who failed. And he's really interesting. He's in 3 wells. He has 465 places his whiskey's sold in Arizona. And he said, well, I took on some debt. And I looked at his equipment. He had good equipment. He had a good label, Prickly Pear vodka, which is a good label. But he just ran, and he had a partner who was a little scruffy. The partner's not pulling his weight, so he wanted to pull out. But I wanted him to come to talk about being a failure, because failure stories are really important. And I once did a pizza conference, and the pizza conference, I was just a speaker promoting beer and pizza. I had people come up whose pizza parlors failed. And it was really fun to hear these stories of people getting the phone call at 7 o'clock in the morning saying, are you going to work? And they said, yeah, we're going to work. And I said, why'd you call? And he said, because your pizza parlor's on fire. And it burnt to the ground. So then they have to start all over again. So those kind of stories versus people have funding. But what's the other end of this extreme, the other end of the industry is people are coming in now who are funded. They got $10 million, and they can spend that money and not bat an eye.
Right.
So they need to hire professional consultants. They need to hire architects. They need a huge learning curve, and most of those people are veterinarians, doctors, professional people who been 20 years in their industry. They're barely 50 years old, and they're bored being an architect. Or like John Hickenlooper, you get fired being an archaeologist or whatever, and you want to change in your life. Well, here's an opportunity for you to go learn, and nobody's going to open up your head and pour all that knowledge in. You got to teach yourself what you do. And I just simply tell everybody, get in your car and visit every distillery you can, because then you'll get your concepts down.
And you've kind of done that. How many distilleries have you been to, Bill?
I don't know. I would say 400 to 500. I've driven across the country 3 times, and then I do. Last year I did half of Canada, and this year I'll do the other half of Canada out to Prince Edward Island, and just go shake hands, say hello, see what they're doing. Lay a magazine on them, and look for stories to be written. There's a new floor malting in Prince Edward Island. I want to go see these guys because when we're working on the floor malting book, they were really helpful. And so I want to go say thank you for helping. Gabe was the guy who wrote the book, put that together. So the people I approach on doing books, like right now we have Robert Castle is doing a book on how to set up a lab in a distillery. Well, there is no book on how to set up a lab. What kind of instrumentation, what are you going to check for, et cetera. So we're well into this book, so we'll probably go to a couple small distilleries that have a real lab, take some photographs and say, here are the 5 pieces of equipment you need, here's what they cost, and here's your procedure to check what's going on in your distillation process. So those kind of books are really important to people out there. So we try to keep pushing. I have an apple brandy book coming, I have a cooperage book coming, and some of these books take like 2 years to happen because people have full-time jobs. And we just keep the print-on-demand books so they don't cost any money, and we just run them up the flag and see what happens.
So there's, I don't know if it was somebody said it to me, but they were like, has anybody visited more distilleries than Bill Owens?
No.
I met a guy yesterday, Aaron Linden, he does insurance, and he gets around a lot. I'm like, maybe he's neck and neck, or they're probably pretty close, but yeah.
It's fun. You just, I've thought about taking a camper truck. Nope, I just show up, find a motel, see the people, get back in the car, and the next day I'm gone. So the burn is about $100 a day for a hotel and gas, so it's not that bad. You just got to have, if you're gone for 3 months, you better have $3,000 to burn. And the home fires are being taken care of by Christy or one of my other assistants, and Erik's on the job now, so I can disappear for a couple, 3 months. Last year I was 52 days out and made a trip around the world. And so you got to be able, but also when you're traveling, in the morning I do my email, evening I'm doing my email, nobody knows I'm gone. As long as you keep up on your email, you're on top of it, and don't worry about the phone calls.
You could be anywhere in the world. Well, having gone around the world like that, what's your picture of the landscape? Like, what do you think is going on out there?
Lots of disinformation, lots of things being done wrong. The gin renaissance is major, as you know, and the cocktail thing is major. All the people I visited had really good cocktail bars, but everybody's in love with whiskey, and when I look at what they're doing in whiskey, they're doing it, they're cooking corn, which I try to say, be a brewery distillery and cook and mash 2-row barley. I can do 3 mashes in one day where you can only do 1 corn cook, and make single malt whiskey. And single malt whiskey is going to be really big, and it's not going to be a brand that swoops around the world and in Japanese bars. You're going to be in the suburbs of Denver, Colorado, and people know who you are, and you're selling your whiskey and making some money and creating absinthe and creating other kinds of interesting products along with what you're doing, and paying your bills, paying your taxes, and great pride of owning your own business. The other thing I see is a lot of husband and wife teams, which is really unusual. And the women are pulling their weight, and it's not like in other industries where the wife is at home or has another business. These couples pull together, and sometimes the woman does all the distilling.
I was listening to your interview with Stephen Gould, and one of the quotes I pulled out of there is there's 1,500 to 1,600 craft distilleries, predominantly family-owned business that are economic drivers in every community they're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely what excites me about this entire scene. Yeah, Brian and I were talking last night about how American Single Malt really is appearing to us to be the IPA of craft spirits.
Yeah.
So
Some people have a negative connotation with IPA, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as kind of just being the thing that you can kind of count on.
Yes.
Everybody's got one, and they all are somewhat similar in character.
Well, there's such folklore with it too.
I'll try
From
not-
moonshine on.
I'll try not to be rude here too, and I've tasted a lot of bourbon. I've tasted a lot of 2-year-old bourbons, and I think in general, 2-year-old single malt is, to me, more preferable than a 2-year-old bourbon.
Yeah. Plus, like, they're starting to get into the terroirs and the regions of single malts, which is also very cool. Especially for North America, have regions of whiskey is exciting.
Yeah, I like it when
The
they
Empire rye, and
I like it when they take me out and show me the dirt.
Yeah.
Here's where we're raising our wheat.
Yep.
Here's our mill, and here's our still, and here's our product. And there's great pride of returning back to basics, where if your family grew alfalfa for the last 3 generations, that's over with. The family farms are failing left and right, but if I visited a big malt house,
Root Shoot,
and they were incredible. They've invested $1 million into this. It's 4 times bigger than a cement mixer drum. And I said to them, in 2 years, this will be paid off. Because not only can they sell to breweries and distilleries, you can sell to bakers. They want local terroir and things that are grown here, and rye's coming around. And I'm not a rye person, I'm a barley person. Rye's a bitch to work with, and enzymes and all the other stuff. A lot of people also that I met on this trip will say to me, I like doing things the hard way. And I'm shaking my head saying, why are you doing it this way? It's not right. But he just hard-headed and doing it. Erik walked out of the room. He didn't want to keep talking to the guy, but he's doing a whole bunch of things wrong. And he hasn't read a book. He hasn't talked to any other distillers, and he's just doing stupid things. Well, his money, he'll learn. That's not the best procedure. But there's, again, we're working on EDU, education, to have education over the internet and more classes. And that education is critical. People want to know, and you can't go to any university in America at all and get a degree in distilling. Or in brewing, there's a few degrees in brewing, and usually it's just 1 graduate class with 3 students, and that's about it. And so that area of education, but the internet changes it all too. I tell people, recently I went on YouTube and I said, I'll just take a look and see what's going on in home distilling. And the guy's behind us at a desk just like this. He's a little still, and he's just talking into the camera, no production value at all. And he had his facts down. He was not doing disinformation. And I thought, that's really good. He's saying, you do this and this and this, and you'll get that kind of results. And it was really nice to see those low production YouTube films of some guy out of his kitchen talking about how he makes vodka or whatever.
Yeah, that's really fun. I mean, how people start so young, and just start by experimenting in their backyards.
Yeah.
And the knowledge that you need to gain. So.
I think the future also is brewery distillery.
Yeah.
Because the mash is the same.
Mm-hmm.
Mash goes to beer, or mash goes to distilling. But also, when you think about it, a lot of wineries can add a small still and make brandy.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a lot of vacation resorts. I think there's a big cruise ship that now has a still on it.
Right.
So you can put these stills everywhere in the world. I just wonder if we can catch the number of brew pubs out there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can, because you can buy these nanos, for $18,000. You got a still. If you buy neutral grain spirits, you're making gin one day and selling it the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So that really changes the model. If you're making whiskey, you're 2 years out.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
back to the education part too, there is, what you learn online, but there's this whole other aspect of it, which is the sensory, which, it's something that's got to be done in person, in more of a group setting, and with professionals as well. I don't know how to, everybody I meet who does brown spirits, I'm like, you should take Nancy Fraley's class or whatever sensory class you can get your hands on, because until I started this and I taste things and I'm like, oh, it's good. And then I sit with other judges and they're like, oh no, there's this thing burning on my palate in the back, or there's this off flavor in there.
Yeah.
And until you go through those things with real professionals, with people who are spirits judges, you just can't pick parts of it out or find faults. Spirits is so concentrated, and so it's just this crazy experience across your palate. But yeah, I don't know how to.
You
So
got to
many
go through
nuances.
training.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to train yourself. And only now can I taste water. I never paid any attention to water. I'm in a hotel. Oh, this is great water. The next hotel, I go, oh my God, this water is terrible, right?
From all
I
your
never paid any
travels.
attention to water, but now I can taste water.
Water
So people
sommelier.
always want to pour me a drink. I said, I'm the wrong person. I just drink because it's fun to hang out and to be in a bar and talk.
Yeah.
That's what's fun for me. But there's a next level of people that want to take it to that level as a real business, and they're out there, and there's some real farmers now that have 200 or 300 acres of wheat, and they're going to drop $1 million into that distillery because they know for generations nobody came out to that farm. They passed it on to the sons, and they raised the wheat, price control, very little profit. But once they open a distillery, every weekend there's 30 or 40 people coming out there. Oh, here's our wheat, here's our corn, and you can brag about being a farmer for 3 generations. Otherwise, you're just another farmer struggling to get ADM to pay you a better price. So to me, it's an exciting time to be in it.
It is a bit of a renaissance of colonial America and the founding of our country and all the things that we're
doing a rum book right now too.
Based
Our
upon.
best-selling book, 2 to 1 over the whiskey books, is a rum book. And I keep saying, where's all this rum being distilled? And I looked on the database, there's 400 people making rum. Well, it's not their primary product to be making whiskey, some rum or gin and rum, but they're making rum because it's pretty simple. It's sugar, fermentation, distillation, and into the barrel. So it's much easier to do. And yesterday, I went to this distillery called 300 Days of Shine, and he is making a moonshine from sugar beets. Mm-hmm. And the fermentation was vigorous, but also I took a photograph of him in Iraq with those. He's the guy digging out the IUDs or whatever it is. So he spent 3 or 4 years. So I said, are you still suffering from PST? And he says, yeah, I have a hard time going to Kmart because I'm always looking around who's going to try and kill me. But his products, then at the end, he gave us a little taste of his whiskey, and it was so damn good, I bought a bottle. Everybody in the car bought a bottle of his whiskey. And Tony was with me. He said, this is as good as any Scotch whiskey I've ever tasted. Made from sugar. But that barrel then, what's going on there, we don't know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's really fun to have somebody with he doesn't have $20,000 in that distillery. You know, plastic fermentation tanks, homemade still, a little bar that's 2 people, his medals on the wall from being in Iraq, you know, and his wife and his daughter work in the distillery, and he's doing fine.
That's great.
We were actually talking about this at the table right before you guys kicked this thing off with the keynote, and the woman that was sitting with us, she said, well, there's these folks and they think that they can start one of these distilleries with $50,000. And then we were also talking about the other end of the spectrum, which you also alluded to, you know, the $10 million guy that walks in and is like, build this for me. It really does seem that there's a bit of a divergence in the paradigm, and that we are moving into a brew pub, this distillation pub model on one end, the nano distillery like you described, and then the $10 million plug and play.
10, 20, 30, 40.
One of the stereotypes I have about the industry is engineers. You go around and you meet a lot of engineers. And yeah, I mean, there are people that build their business for $100,000 or $200,000, but they're doing everything. They're building their bar. They're piping everything they can. Yeah. They're doing, they're very engaged. And so, yeah, they can do it inexpensively, but, it's not everybody in the world can say.
Has those skills.
Engineers are the people that are oh yeah, I can build a distillery, right? Most people I don't think have that set of job skills. Engineers in general do, right? But
when I went around yesterday with Robert Castle to 4 or 5 distilleries, we would walk in and say, what's wrong with them? Oh my God, this still is huge in a little tiny room, and all I have is a bar.
You used to do that with restaurants. We go out to restaurants.
Yes.
And he'd say, what's wrong with this restaurant? The hole in the wall, the
menu's
the
dirty.
Tear over there, the menus are dirty.
Where the door is, where they have to bring the food out.
Yeah.
They're bumping into each other as they come in and out.
But in the distilling business, I can quickly spot, yesterday at Block, the mill is upstairs, so they're carrying 40 or 50-pound bags of grain upstairs. Well, they're going to expand next year, but for the first year, you can carry that grain upstairs and mill it upstairs and have it drop down by gravity. But eventually, you want to be efficient with your time, and you just learn. You'll figure that out.
Who do you think will win out in the 10 million versus 100,000.
I don't think there's not a contest.
There's different ambitions, and there's definitely much different levels of ambition of what you want to be. You know, in the Bay Area, we have Sutherland Distilling, right? He's out in Livermore. He's got his tasting room. He's slowly growing. He has no debt, and he's very happy with that, you know. And he's not trying to grow fast and do other things. And then there's Sonoma Distilling, right? Sonoma Distilling's been around for 8 years now, and they don't have a tasting room, but they do have, I believe, those national ambitions. They're in every bar you go to in San Francisco, and you know, I believe he just put in a 2,800 gallon steam fired foresight.
Yeah, Adam,
Yeah.
he's been expanding for a little bit here.
Yeah.
So
And so, but he does have more, I believe, more of that national ambition. And then, you know, so there's not one way to do this thing, right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm on this side of the fence. Where do you buy the equipment? How do you process the alcohol, whatever? When you cross that fence now to marketing and wholesalers and retailers, I haven't crossed over there yet, because that's 50 states with 50 different sets of rules. And you mentioned on stage that Kentucky now allows you to ship. One state allows you to ship. Well, if you're in California, you'd love to ship to Las Vegas, be in the Bellagio. Why not?
right.
So we got to work on those laws, and there's just laws, lots of things that need to be worked on. So the little tiny Apple Brandy distillery up in Washington can ship 10 or 15 bottles to an Apple Brandy bar somewhere. I'm sure somebody will do an Apple Brandy bar.
I wish I had the list from Robert Castle about everything they have. They're in a control state, but like they can make cocktails at the bar. They can sell as many bottles as they want. They can do interstate shipping, so they can actually take a bottle and drop it in the mail and ship it within the state.
Yeah.
And the most amazing thing, I think, is he just got the state to give him $1 million. $1 million for marketing craft distilleries
Yeah.
within the state.
The Department of Agriculture and Tourism, there's big money out there to be given if you know how to fill out those applications and know how to source that money. It's
And
out
then
there.
there's other states out there in dry counties or other states that don't even allow you to
Yeah.
have a tasting room. And so for me, he's the model right now. And how do we get everybody from where we are today at least up to that standard? I think
Yeah.
it would really open everything up.
I was listening to Chris from Grand Canyon Distilling talk, and he said, I think he was the one that said this, that they can only sell 2 bottles a month or something like that out of their
Nobody's
their
checking.
place. But he pointed out, like, what other do mattress manufacturers have to deal with this?
Yes,
like,
right,
what
right.
other industry
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
entire
yeah,
world
yeah.
has a limit on how many things they can sell to their customer?
Yeah, Timo said this to me too on one of the tours, which is it's not a limit on the business. Really, it's a limit on the consumer. Like, you want to buy something, but you can't buy it.
Yeah.
It's so
to
crazy.
regift it, right?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, Brian was in Iceland recently, and he went to a distillery where they were fermenting and distilling birch sap.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
how many bottles would you have brought home?
I would have brought home a whole suitcase. But, you know, if I
You
could.
go out to the Blue Lagoon?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that
Yeah,
was
definitely.
fun. I've
Yeah,
been
it's a
out
good
there.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But yeah, no, exactly. I would have brought back as much as I could have. I have that one bottle, and then I brought back, a bunch of other different spirits. Aquavits are like their main spirit out there, but
My problem is it takes 2 years to finish a bottle.
yeah.
Because I got another one, I'll try that one. I got another one, that one gets kind of pushed back.
But that's the goal, right? Like, when it comes to craft, for me at least, like, I want that bar, my home bar, to be where nobody can, where anyone who comes in cannot recognize a single label because it's all
Yeah.
from
Craft.
craft distillers.
Yeah.
Like, that's the dream, right?
No Jim
so,
Beam.
yeah. So,
Why?
and yeah, if you can't
Can we
buy
wrap
all
this
those
up soon?
bottles,
I'm running out of energy.
Yeah, understood.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's 1,500, you said, Eric?
Over
like, what's
1,500.
what's the limit? Where do you see this going?
I think we can catch craft brewers.
15,000.
Well, who knows?
7,000?
Because
7,000. Sorry, I was
my
thinking
trip
of-
around, I just in the last couple of months put together the list of craft distillers in Germany, in Ireland, Wales, and UK, and a lot of them, most of them over there are NGS gin distilleries. And so I only looked up people that were grain to glass. And I think UK, there's only 4
Right.
who are craft. And Ireland has 23 of them,
Yeah.
more than Scotland and UK put together. So people who have that DNA in their blood, they're going to make Irish whiskey, no matter what. So that now they have other problems with laws, but that equipment's out there. They can come to my other trade show, the London Expo, and you can talk to that barrel maker, you can talk to the cap producer, you can talk to the label people, and begin to put your plan together and just say, this is where I want to be, and think further out. And too many people want instant gratification. You got to think way out.
And that question too is really you're only talking about the U.S. It's going on in Canada.
Yeah.
We have our conference in London. We're going to be offering a class in Sweden this year.
Yeah.
And that number, I can't remember, it's either 26 or 3,200 distilleries worldwide, and this really is
Peru.
a worldwide phenomenon.
Somebody's making gin in Peru.
Hong
Kong.
Those people, there's people
Mexico.
that, Iron Root Republic is exporting to London. There's problems with that now, but think about that too, where these American products, and there's people in Spain, they don't drink bourbon, but I don't even know if they're out there or introduced to it. And there's 2 or 3 craft distilleries in Spain, right? And I know they're doing their things, but really I think that American style, the rye, the bourbons, the corn whiskeys,
Local.
they're going to
terroir
be
is
making
local.
it in China,
Yeah.
guaranteed.
I don't know
I'm
how.
sure
The
everybody
Chinese
in the
don't have
world
that
would love
culture
it.
of home brewing and other stuff. I'm skeptical, but maybe
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Japanese for sure. They
There's
love their
also-
They
whiskeys.
don't have that culture that we do on entrepreneurship.
I
Young
do
people.
think-
Fail to believe that.
Yeah.
Okay, they probably do.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I have some friends. My wife works in a research facility, and there's a lot of foreign nationals there. And when I talk with them, that's the key thing they always say. I was like, why are you here versus being back home? And they say, because here in America, the lid is off the pot as far as innovation. Where they come from, it's very restricted, and the culture just isn't there to support innovation and experimentation.
Yeah.
Um,
The marketing there is very difficult.
Yeah. So there's maybe a little bit of leadership change down the line for ADI. What's your vision for the future for ADI, Eric?
Well, I'm 80. I'm not dead yet. I just reduced a lot of my responsibilities, and I work on books and push hard on finding new distilleries. And then we have that weekly newsletter that's 12,000 people read that. So every day I'm feeding information to Diane on this is the people I want, screw those people. And so we have I'm very proud of that newsletter. And I think those are my primary responsibilities. And I have to turn it over to Erik and Christy to do the day-to-day operations. After 15 years, I don't need to be knowing how many chairs to rent for a banquet hall.
We've come 15 years. Bill Owens is a serial entrepreneur, and there's the entrepreneurial cycle, there's the few Facebooks or whatever where somebody can found a business and run it. And so there's so many things going on with ADI. We're really sort of 8 businesses under one roof. And the last year I've been trying to look at each one and how can we make it better. The magazine,
The judging.
Turn it into the online thing, the judging, the conference, and it's about team too, and how do you build that team, and how can you get those things done? Anne Sophie is our conference director, and look at it here. I don't know how she does what she does, but really
we can't even make a budget because we don't know what's going to happen. We know it's going to grow, so we just do the best we can.
Well, I can't let you go, Bill, without finding out this little bit. So I'm a Tumblr junkie. Most people don't mess around with Tumblr anymore, but I like Tumblr, and so it's photoblog, and you can reblog these photos that you find. And I'm sifting through it one evening, having my cocktail, and I see this picture of it's like a cocktail party at someone's house. And
with the Christmas tree.
Yeah,
or,
and it says photo by Bill Owens. How did that happen? What is that backstory?
I did a book decades ago called Suburbia, which is a focus on what it means to be middle class. And after that book, I did Our Kind of People, Working and Leisure. Then after that, you're divorced because you don't have any money. You can't make it in the arts. And then Buffalo Bills came along. But the books I own all the books now back, and I'm in the process of trying to list some things on the internet and find a distributor. But there's no money in that. I have one lady who part-time organizing the files. But I have a new book. I was 50 years ago, I was at the Rolling Stones Altamont concert, and I'm the guy up in the sound tower photographing the Hells Angels beating the shit out of everybody. And when we published those photos in Rolling Stone and Esquire and other magazines, I used 3 different alias names. I didn't want anybody to find me. And so probably 15 years later, we posted a YouTube film. So if you go to Bill Owens, Rolling Stones, Altamont concert, that film has had over 1 million hits. But if somebody tries to email me, I won't respond. It's just, they're not going to buy a
So
photograph.
like one of the great joys for me is to bring my kids to the Oakland Museum, and there's Bill Owens' picture hanging on the wall. He's in the Museum of Modern Art in San Francisco and New
lots of
York,
museum, yeah.
Europe, and so
I
yeah,
had
there's
a,
this
I had a
whole other.
Guggenheim, other NEA grants, all those books, and it's wonderful to have that heritage, and that'll pass on to my older son. We're doing a trust, and Erik will get the distilling thing, but to organize that to be donated to a museum so that it's properly archived and taken care of. It's taken us probably 2 years to figure out how to do that. But I can sell a few prints at $4,000 occasionally. Big deal. I mean, it's not on my radar. For $4,000 is not on my radar. And it's nice that people will call me up and say, "Oh, you're so great," blah blah blah. I say, "Yeah, I took those photographs, 44 years ago, right? Why don't you go back and visit them?" I said, "They're all dead by now, right? So you can't go back. You just keep on going." But I love digital. I mean, I got a really good eye. I make incredible digital photographs. I have a lot of fun with the digital camera because I can sneak a photograph of you that you never even knew I was there. Click and I'm gone. Especially the pretty girls. All right, are we
I
done?
think that's a great place to close.
Yeah,
thank you
thank you.
guys both so
Thanks,
much.
Bill.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Congratulations on all you've accomplished, Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Erik.
Thanks, guys.